as we come up on the Hall of Fame induction, I just kind of wanted to I guess given the perspective of a couple of years gone now, get your thoughts on what Adrian Beltre meant to the organization, and then I also kind of wanted to ask, like, as you guys were looking at a rebuild at some point, you knew it was coming. Was that delayed at all by the fact that you kind of wanted to keep things maybe not so rebuildy for his last year or two here?
Let me start with the first part. So, I mean, probably a bit of an understatement, but it couldn't have gone any better than it did. The outcome, versus our expectation. We had high expectations, and it was a step out move for us at the time. It was, we were, in fact, we got some industry criticism for overpaying, and it was the exact opposite, right? But I remember when we signed him, some of the guys in the office made the comment, like, we were comfortable with the deal if he was just a kind of an elite defender, and even if his offense took a step back from the year he had in Boston. And then I think it was AJ said, he goes, "Can you imagine if he doesn't take a step back from that? Like how good this would be?" And that's what happened, right? I mean, he maintained this elite level of defense. He was as big of a presence on and off the field, maybe bigger than we anticipated. You knew from the outside the intensity he brought and as a competitor, and then you also found out like how much fun he had playing the game. And then the offense is probably the one area that was significantly higher level than we even thought. So a lot of things stand out. People have talked about. I still the day in Toronto in 2015 where he got the base hit, drove in a run off David Price, I believe, and with the single to center when he could barely walk. And that stands out to me. But he elevated the franchise. Elevated other players around him. And the fact that he wanted to extend with us at the end, when he signed that 2-year extension, knowing that we were a competitive team, but we certainly, weren't, where we were when he first signed. He could have chosen to go somewhere else, and he didn't. He wanted to stay here. Wanted to felt like he had unfinished business. So to answer your second question, it played a role. I think the reality was if we were going to rebuild after 16 or after 17, it would have required, not required, but it probably would have been best done if we would have traded him. And that was part of the discussion. Ultimately, something we chose not to do.
Thanks, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go to Jeff.
John, just wondering, what's been your evaluation of the AA team? Maybe a little bit older now, that 60% of the rotations at AAA, but and what are the chances again that Jung and basically Jung, maybe Huff is promoted to the major leagues?
Well, overall, I mean, that club's been a lot of fun all year. And as some guys, have gotten either hurt or some guys have graduated. You look up and here comes, Bradford, and here comes, Smith and Foscue now, and so it's a real credit to our system and all the people that have contributed to it. That that team is it's half step removed from the big leagues, and the talent pipeline is continued through there, even if guys have gotten moved up. But yeah, we feel like there's a number of guys there that are going to play a real role for us here in building the big league club over the next couple of years. On Jung and on Huff, I mean, kind of a couple different situations there. Obviously, both guys missed time with injuries. So that's kind of at our forefront of our minds with those decisions and making sure they're ready. Sam is hasn't gotten going offensively like he's capable of. So right now we feel like he's where he needs to be. And Josh, has played very well despite missing some time. So we haven't made final decisions there. I mean, there are other factors at play. Other guys, people playing their positions, or in the case of Josh, we've 40-man considerations over the winter that will factor in as well.
And then, have you asked Adrian to join to sign on in a role similar to Darren and Michael and Colby?
We've had a couple conversations about it. Some, a couple years old now. Some more recent. I'm sure we'll talk again. He's in such a good place with his family and with AJ and his girls and obviously Sandra, and he wanted to spend time there. So there have been a couple things that asked his help with over the last couple of years. Not in any sort of official capacity, whether it's his opinion or even a couple other things. It's something that we definitely as an organization have interest in down the line, but it's got to be the right time for him and for his family.
All right, and just one more. Chris Davis retired today. I know you guys had him for the first three and a half years of his career. At the time it looked like a trade that maybe came back to bite you, but 13-year veteran. What do you have to say about his career?
Yeah, I mean, give him a ton of credit. There are some guys that have kind of early struggles in the big leagues, and even with a change of scenery, don't take off the way he did, and he made himself an MVP candidate and kind of the anchor to a playoff lineup for a number of years. One of the more feared hitters in the league, and I just hope. I think we have a tendency as an industry, as fans, to kind of remember the end of a career, or relative. His contract gets a lot of attention, and I hope people look back and say, one, this is a wonderful person, good father, and outstanding human being, and two, he had a hell of a career, and he's banged up a little bit at the end, and I know people always kind of view that against the size of the contract, but the contract and the individual and the athlete and performer are two very different things. So congratulate him on a hell of a career.
Thanks, JD.
Mm-hmm.
Evan.
On Jung, the 40-man thing is a legitimate consideration, right? And it has nothing to do with manipulating his service time. It's all about trying to keep everybody in, trying to keep all the talent that you have right now, because you're in an acquisition process, right?
Yeah, I mean, the point you brought up on service times, that kind of a non-factor. But we have a number of players that we're going to have to make decisions on over the winter to whether to add to our roster, protect from the Rule 5 draft, and so that's a real factor. If somebody doesn't necessarily need to be added from a rules perspective, it's at least a consideration. I can give you 20 examples of guys we've added prior to their Rule 5 year. That's not going to drive the decision, but it's part of it.
In the rebuild, I think you guys have done the teardown process. What comes next? What's the next phase or the next step?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. I think it's evaluation and development, which kind of really go hand in hand, and giving players opportunity and seeing what they're capable of and who we can count on moving forward. And that's an ongoing process. That's not like a one moment in time, make a decision, in or out. I mean, it's understand that this development and maturity of individual it's not a linear path all the time. So that's probably, that's where we're at right now. And then at the same time, the external additions, whether that's trade or free agency. I mean, those are the two areas that we're going to spend the most time on here coming up.
Okay. All right. Thanks, JD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go to Kennedy.
Hey, JD. I guess we're 2 weeks post trade deadline. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts, I guess, immediate reactions to those four guys you got from the Yankees? I know obviously one got promoted to AA just a couple of days ago. What are your immediate reactions there?
Yeah, as advertised, first, all four, the makeup feel really good about based on feedback we're getting from our development staff, really consistent with what our scouts had told us. High energy, intelligent, high aptitude, coachable, mature, really like across the board. And then performance wise has been, kind of speaks for itself. It's been, really, really good for all four guys. So very positive first impressions.
Thanks, JD.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah. Sarah, you're muted. You're muted. Okay, let's go to Chris.
Hey, JD. When asking about like guys like Josh Jung and Sam Huff, I look at Cole Winn and what he's doing. When you guys have a pitching prospect that's performing as well as he is, how do the conversations go when you're trying to balance, making sure that you're not rushing him, but also wanting to make sure that he's continually challenged?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things there. All of our players have very specific player plans and kind of individual goals for the whole season, but also kind of shorter term where they're at. And then it's even there's an added complication, or not there's an added wrinkle for all these guys, for not just us, for all 30 teams, that last year was such an anomaly, right? And it's so the idea with Cole in particular is for him, this is his first real chance to have especially at the upper levels, have kind of a wire to wire season and make every start, stay healthy, on top of his kind of individual between the lines goals and things that he's working on. And so, couldn't be happier where he's at, a few years removed from high school and, having an outstanding season at AA, and, he's in a really good spot at, the ace of a very good team there in Frisco, and want to see him kind of finish the year on the same level. When I say level, I mean same like performance level.
Right. I had to step away for a second, so I wasn't sure if you already addressed this. So I apologize if it's a repeat question. And I know it's early. You guys probably haven't even talked about a budget for next year yet. But you guys have said that you want to be players in free agency. Do you have an idea of how high on the market you guys might try to compete in that area?
Preliminarily, yeah, I don't have a final kind of budget number at this point, but I expect we'll have one relatively early in the off season.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's try Sarah again. And we're still frozen.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep,
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So as far as, you talk about growth and development, Kenny Holmberg down with the Round Rock Express, obviously taking on a pretty big job, not necessarily sure if that was an expectation part of this year for these young guys to come up and down as much as they have. But in your conversations with him, how much of the growth and development weighs on his shoulders to get these guys ready to get up to the big club and contribute?
Yeah, so having Kenny there, to your first point, Sarah, is absolutely a by design. I think the AAA manager job is one of the tougher ones in the game. In large part, you've either got players there that are, young players, prospects that need, kind of true development, and you also have some guys that are on the kind of shuttle up and down maybe not happy about it, right? They've been recently sent down, or you might have some veterans, kind of AAA veterans, older in their career that are, seeing other guys maybe get opportunities before them. So just by definition, that AAA manager job is extremely challenging. I think you have to be a really good communicator, be very upfront, honest, be really invested in these guys' best interests, and the players have to trust that. And so Kenny's, I think, uniquely qualified for that, just having grown up around the game and played himself. And he's so upfront and honest and cares so much about people. Then you layer in that he's a really good coach. Whether it's infield, he's a background on the hitting side as well, and I think he's able to relate to a lot of different people because he cares so much. So, it was very intentional to have Kenny there in a year in which we knew that there was going to be a lot of development going on, and also the shuttle, for lack of a better term, was going to be pretty active, and he's handled it very, very well.
Thanks, JP.
Okay, I'll take a few follow-ups here, and we'll start with Levi.
So speaking of AAA, there were a couple of guys I wanted to ask you about. One is Johal Pozo, who seems like every level he's been at, he could hit. Signed with the Padres, you guys pretty immediately grabbed him back in the Rule 5 draft, so clearly you value him as a player. But it would appear there's maybe not an opening at catcher at the big league level just right this very moment. So I kind of wanted to just get your thoughts on him and his development path.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Pozo, he's worked hard on his defense behind the plate. He's always been a guy who's most likely path is for his bat to carry him, from a career standpoint. He's got such a unique profile, right? I mean, he swings at a lot of pitches, and he makes hard contact with a lot of pitches. And there's ultimately some question, like as you move up through the system and challenge at the next level, how pitchers are certainly going to recognize that and adjust, and how will he recognize that and adjust. But as we've talked about, we want our players to earn, the opportunity. Like certainly from a performance standpoint and his work between the lines and in preparation, what the staff's asked for him, he has earned consideration here for a call up. He's played a couple games at first base. Obviously, in the American League, we have the DH spot as well. So there are a few different opportunities to get his bat in the lineup if we do call him up, and it is under consideration.
And then the other guy, I keep hearing the name Nick Snyder. Finally got a chance to see him in Round Rock, and he looks about like what I was hearing. Kind of wanted to get your thoughts on his ascent through the organization and how close you think he might be.
Yeah, I mean, start with the second half of your question. He's very close. I think if this was not a kind of a rehab year for him, right, coming off TJ, very well could be up already. But we've been fairly cautious with him, fairly intentional with his workload. He's had pretty regular days off. I think only recently did he go with 1 day in between outings. I think he'd been kind of 2 days at least between outings coming off TJ, and is such a hard thrower that we wanted to be smart about that. But he's all the things that we've set out to make sure that he's accomplished, both between the lines and then also workload wise, rest and recovery wise, arm care wise. He's continued to put them all in the rearview mirror. So certainly one of the quicker mover and brighter relief prospects that we've got right now.
Right on. Thanks, man.
Jeff.
Staying with Round Rock, is Glenn Otto still the plan for him to be added before the season is up?
I think most likely, yeah. I mean, we've got a few guys in kind of a similar boat as far as having some upper level time and success that certainly could star, whether it's Otto or Alexi, Yuri Rodriguez, Burke. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but Glenn definitely in that category that good chance that he'll get a look here.
And then two more, Solak and Leote.
Yeah, Leote's last month or so, I mean, really taken some of the adjustments that he was challenged to make. His approach, I mean, he's really gotten much more selective, cut down on a swing and miss, and he's been very, very productive here. So he is in discussions for another extended opportunity here in the big leagues. Solak, also a guy we would like to do that with. He's been working on some mechanical changes and adjustments that he's not yet kind of locked in, so to speak. So probably a little bit more time for Nick.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question, Evan.
So I want to make sure that September 1, you can only add 2 more players to the active roster, or 3?
2, yeah. The limit's 28 now.
Okay. So in order to do that, if you want to get all these guys up here, you're going to have to probably remove some guys from the big league roster, right?
That's all right. I mean, the one thing is September, AAA is playing, for the first another 2-3 weeks of the season, which is unusual or new, I should say. So, whereas in the past, if you don't call a guy up, he kind of sits at home. There is an opportunity to let guys continue to play. They don't necessarily all have to come at once.
Hey, and on Pozo, when you talk about first base and DH, do you not view him as being capable? I don't want to say not capable, but do you view him not catching in the big leagues?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think Jonah and Jose defensively are ahead of Johal at this point, but no, I don't want to limit him to that. I forget who asked the question. I'm sorry, but it was kind of in the context of having 2 catchers that we still want to look at. So I was just saying that there are other opportunities in addition to catching to get his bat in the lineup.
Got it. And then the last thing is you start to tackle, and I'm sure you've started to tackle all these issues, but the part of it is a function of the fact that you just haven't had a great team on the field this year, and is the losing record on the road and the record on the road. But that's been an issue for the last 3 years here. Are there any things that you can identify that, hey, this is something we can address beyond like, hey, yeah, let's have a better team together? Yeah,
I mean, it's something that we'll look at and see if there are some common themes there. But I would probably my sense is that we're going to come back to your latter point that it's the talent level overall is the issue more so than anything specific about our travel or on the road. I mean we don't have a group that especially like this year and last year with COVID stuff, it's not even like guys are going out and running it at night. I'm not worried about that sort of thing. I think as our talent improves, as our quality of play improves, I think that'll affect whether we're home or on the road. I think it'll all get better.
Okay. All right. Thank you.